Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. Well, happy holidays and welcome to the final episode of 2023 of the Flagstick Podcast. I am Jeff Potter, your host, and with me as always, and during this holiday season is Scott McLeod. He's laughing.
I'm laughing because I know you're dragging your ass today. So
the Flagstick Podcast obviously is brought to you by the Canadian Pro Shop Online. They have the gift of golf that everyone is talking about, the Clubhouse Golf Box, an amazing gift for the golfer on your life, loaded with outstanding product from top brands. Simply choose the essential or the premium box, pick your ship date. We'll fill the box with enticing products and ship it right to you or the lucky recipient. It's gift giving made easy. Get yours or browse for other great gifts at Canadian Pro Shop Online. And as always, we do encourage you to follow us on social media, Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads, subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and obviously we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which many of you have recently. Like us and click the notification bell to make sure that you never miss a single episode. Well, I got through that without too much tongue tying. Yes, I do admit, I am dragging my butt a little bit this morning. It was
somebody was at the rink awful late last night.
Late last night. It was a good win. Finished the season. Finished the 2023 season with
no holiday tournaments or anything.
No, we have one in January, but nothing over
enough.
The holidays like some teams would. We're 7-0-2, or sorry, 5-0-2 in our last 7 games. So they're excited.
And I realize it's an opportunity when the kids are off school and stuff like that. But it'd be nice to have a little bit of a break, right? For most of them.
When they're younger, I'm okay with it. I don't mind it a little bit when they're younger, and if it's local, like I know our boys always used to participate in like the Bell Capital Cup.
Right. Yeah.
Which is local for us. Now, for teams traveling to Ottawa to play in the Bell Capital Cup, it's a different story. But for us, Bell Capital Cup, you go to the game, you come home. You go to the game, you come home. You go to the game, you come home. But if you got to go away and you're going to the hotel, going out for dinner, I mean, that's especially right over the holidays. Now, we do have a practice on the 26th. I'm not too sure that there's that many of our players that are clicked off as attending that one.
I mean, it's nice to have a little bit of a break and kind of enjoy your family time and stuff like that. But I guess for some of those teams, if they were coming up for the Bell Capital Cup, and maybe it's a cool trip for them, because obviously there's international teams that come in for that. So maybe that's a little bit of an enticement for some of those people to kind of travel. But I mean, travel during the holiday season is pretty rough as it is. I mean, it's different if you're in a car, but I mean, flying and stuff like that, I mean, certainly something you want to avoid, especially these days. I mean, airports are not a lot of fun of late, that's for sure.
No.
Anyway,
it is what it is. We do want to wish happy holidays to all of our listeners, all of our viewers,
definitely
across the world. Because we do have a rather worldly audience on this podcast. I mean, we're not talking millions across the world, but we do have a very geographically diverse listening, viewing audience. So we want to thank you for tuning in to us each and every week on the Flagstick Podcast. We do appreciate it, and we're looking forward to filling the internet with great golf chat in 2024 as well. So
I should say, before you get to too much, I mean,
you can say whatever you like.
I was,
take over if you want.
This is our year.
I was just laughing taking a nap
because I was looking at the fact.
Okay,
the fact that we're at 66 episodes, and I had somebody talking to me about podcasts and stuff like that or whatever. 45% of podcasts, apparently, according to a couple of studies and whatever, never get beyond 3 episodes, and most never get beyond 10. So yeah, the
Wow.
fact that we're at 66 at this point, thanks for all the listeners, sponsors, everybody that jumps behind it. And it's always nice to to run into people and hear them talking about things that we're talking about, whether they agree with us or not on things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was playing indoor golf last Sunday, and it was nice. I was one of the guys who plays with us all the time is one of the VPs from True Temper, Gavin Robertson, who we know from obviously Accra and so forth, and was a long time golf pro. And yeah, he just said that was one of the things he listens to on his travels is our podcast. So thanks Gavin, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on Boxing Day for another beatdown.
God.
We
You
got beat. We got beat last week, but I'll just gotta chirp him.
Boxing Day beatdown. There you go.
Boxing Day beatdown. Yeah. So what have we got going on today?
Well, let me tell you, Mr. McLeod. On the front nine, as always, we are going to catch up on some of the latest golf news. Some things have been happening, and we're going to talk about them, including the PGA Tour Q School, the the PNC Championship, and
Oh boy,
PNC.
I'm looking forward to this.
and wrapping up 2023.
Yeah,
And on the back nine, we're going to look ahead to 2024, and kind of anticipate what some of those stories in 2024 might be. So, hey, before I completely fall asleep, let's get to the front nine, presented by Metcalf Golf Club. A natural setting, a pleasant challenge. Yes, golf season is over, I think. But you have to plan for next season, and the great time to plan is right now. Get a membership, join a league, get on a waiting list for a league, purchase some game packs, make sure that you are ready to hit the tee with some extra money in your pocket in the spring. Visit metcalfgolf.com to shop now. All right. Let's start off with the Q School.
The newsy stuff.
Well, that's the newsy stuff. Let's start off with the newsy stuff. Let's start off with the Q School. Scott, take it away.
So obviously the PGA Tour Q School, Corn Ferry Tour Q School, and PGA Tour Latino America. Well, I say PGA Tour Latino America. It's PGA Tour America's Q School wrapped up this past week, and it's the first time in 10 years that the PGA Tour school has actually awarded cards to the PGA Tour school. It was the Corn Ferry Tour before that. There were 7 Canadians taking part in that, and thankfully 3 of them did okay. So Sudarshan Yelamaraju tied for 14th, so that guarantees him 12 starts. So he's exempt through the third reshuffle, which is great. He was the second youngest guy in the field at 22, lefty from Mississauga, a guy who won the Ontario Amateur at 16. He's only been pro for a couple, like 2.5 years or so. Didn't go to university. His plan was basically to play pro. Nice kid. Parents are great as well. I've had some interaction with them, so excited for him. And then 2 players that had already secured some Corn Ferry status through their play on PGA Tour Latino America, that it was that time, which was Miles Creighton, who had finished second on their points list, and then Etienne Papineau, who had been 4th on the PGA Tour Canada money list. They both went from basically having guaranteed sort of 4 starts to finishing T48 and T45 at the Q School, and that gets them guaranteed 8 starts. And why that's important is obviously they can turn those starts into more status. And that's the great thing. 4 starts is pretty tough. You're going to have some good play. For people that don't know, the Corn Ferry Tour does a reshuffle of all their players in certain categories after every 4 events, and you can move up or down in those depending on the level of your play. So getting that guaranteed 8 starts gives you an opportunity to really kind of move yourself up there and have a chance to really stay on the tour for the year. So some good success there. That means they're going to join a couple other players up on the Corn Ferry Tour this year, which is good to see. It bodes well, and we'll get to that when we talk about 2024. But nice to see some players through, because obviously we had a couple or 3 get through for LPGA Q School, and it's nice for have some to get through to Corn Ferry Tour School. I will say, we did mention last week, and it's not in the notes, but Bridget Thibault, who went to the Ladies European Tour Q School, she unfortunately missed the cut by 1 shot to go to the final day. She had played through 72 holes to get to the final round at the LETQ school in Morocco. So she does get LET access tour status, but her primary focus is going to be on the Epson tour next year, which she has status on as well. So, but it's nice to see some of those Canadians kind of moving up and getting some more faces at the pro level that we can follow into 2024.
Very much so. And as we mentioned before, Etienne Papineau is more of a familiar name to maybe some of the listeners around the National Capital Region because of the play in the Tunis and the Kent and
Spring Open and
the Quebec Golf Association events. So congratulations to all of them. Good luck in the coming golf season, and good luck pushing your status a little bit higher as you move through on pursuing your careers. All right, Scott. Well, why don't we do a little bit, see, here we go. It's starting.
Did you before we do this, did you watch any of the PNC? You can say no.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to talk about the PNC right now? I guess we might as well.
I didn't throw it in the notes, but I had it in the top part there or whatever.
I watched the PNC. Yes. I watched some of it. Every time I turned it on,
who was following.
It was either Charlie and Tiger, or it was Annika and Will.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
even though the Langers won their 5th title, but they didn't really show them until the very end.
And I noticed the way they had the starts, like the tee times situated for TV, they had, it was all over the place. It was kind of like almost like a shotgun because they had, Tiger and Charlie on prime time, even though they weren't really in prime time. You know what? Here's the thing with the PNC. Do I want to see it on TV? No. I'm the first time that Charlie Woods appeared with Tiger, I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. Now it's a
this many years later, and all the hype surrounding Charlie, and just this, it's like we're pushing this kid on us as the next best amateur golfer coming up. And the reality of it is he is over 1,000th in junior rankings. Like as far as junior ranked golfers, he doesn't play a lot of the mainstream junior, like a lot of the mainstream junior events, like AJGA stuff. I know he plays some, but
he plays mostly South Florida and stuff like that. But high school stuff.
Here's the thing: there are now, rankings aside, reality is there's probably close to 600, 700, 800 junior golfers that are that are better than he is. Like as far as what they're playing in and stuff. And I realize he's good. Don't get me wrong. I watch, watch him TV. He's good, but I've seen good. I see good every year.
Yeah, just let him be a kid.
Like just let him play his junior golf. Let him play his tournaments. But it's not going to happen that way. Then no matter whether we say let him do it and the media let him do it, I don't even think Tiger wants it to happen that way. If Tiger wanted it to happen that way, he wouldn't parade him out in the PNC.
But the thing is though, I don't think Tiger's trying to parade him out in the PNC. They're just playing because they have the opportunity to play it in. I think it's made out by everyone else to be more than it is. And I mean, look at the Strickers for an example. I mean, Izzy, great player, fantastic player. She's won 2 state high school championships in the last little bit. Probably a better player, but you obviously don't see certain media going crazy over her and going, oh, driving this green and doing this and just overhyping it. So I don't think Tiger has to or has the responsibility or needs to kind of pull him away from everything, right? But they're entering it there for themselves. But I agree, even though obviously sponsors are jumping on board, whether it's Ancestry or whatever the case may be. Do we need to see this on TV? They can just go and enjoy it as a family, and take away the media, the hype or whatever. I mean,
but that's not going to happen. So I mean, we can say that that's what they should do. That's not going to happen. The fuse is lit, and this is going to go on and on and on until Charlie is old enough to commit, and then he's going to commit to a college, and then it's going to go on and on and on through his. Now, the only time it might settle down is once he gets to college,
depending what his results are,
and he's not making the 4 or 5 player squads that are going to the national championships, and he's not doing Tiger type stuff, or even things like what Matthew Wolf did, or what DeChambeau did, like what those guys did when they went to college. If he doesn't do what those guys did when he went to college, I think it'll start to fizzle out a little bit. But if he does, it's just going to keep escalating.
Well, I think the hard part for him is that the safest place is the middle of the road, because the fact is, if he does start to not play well, then all of a sudden certain factions of the media are going to be like all over it. Oh, well, he's doing this or whatever. So, and that's where I'd say like John Daly Jr. is. His career at Arkansas, he's not a world beater, but he's not stinking. So as a result of it, not quite as much hype and stuff like this. So I just hope they enjoy themselves. They kind of are able to insulate themselves and just go out and enjoy it as a father son, and obviously with with Sam there as well. She was out there, and maybe they don't even think about that, short of having to do press conferences and things that generally are not attached to just a regular event or whatever. So but maybe at this point they can really insulate themselves a little bit more, and then maybe we look too much into it. But again, I agree, doesn't need to be a spectacle on TV. I mean, they can go and enjoy themselves, and I always enjoy seeing Will play. Will McGee's Annika's son. He's got quite the kid, and super emotional, and just a very genuine kid. And again, I hope they just kind of leave them to do that as well. And yeah, they don't necessarily need to be on TV or have any hype or criticism. Both sides of it. Just go play and do your thing and enjoy yourselves.
But sponsors do dictate a lot of things, so
they do.
The PNC will continue to grow. You'll continue to see this kind of thing happening, and I guess we, like anything else that's put on TV or podcasts that are put on the air, you choose whether you want to watch it or whether you want to listen to it. And we're glad that so many millions of people choose to listen to this and watch this podcast. We anticipate that so many will choose to continue to watch the PNC Championship on TV.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, 2023.
2023.
Dude,
exciting year.
We're at the winter solstice. We're at the turnaround right now, right?
It.
So I saw Masters promos this morning. Days are going to get longer. I mean, we're turning the corner here, but you're right. It was quite the year. Lots of stories, obviously, from a regional, national, international level, things that we beat to death that we don't need to talk about anymore with rollbacks and live and all that stuff. But let's get into some of the highlights. When do you kind of we put together a little bit of a list,
I would say probably aside from some selfish things, which we'll get to later, I would say the biggest Canadian golf news
this one's pretty obvious.
was Nick Taylor winning the RBC Canadian Open. I mean, it has to be the biggest. The biggest golf story of 2023 is having a Canadian win the RBC Canadian Open, and in the fashion that he did it.
And it was
puts a stamp on it, right?
Yeah, and it was this week our Golf Journalists Association of Canada. It was voted the story of the year, and I think it was unanimous as far as that coming out. I don't think there was a thought of anybody, which is too bad, because it does, it's great for Nick, great for the Canadian Open. A week that was, looked like it was going to be overshadowed early on in the week. With some live announcements and stuff like that early in the week, and the PGA Tour setting up a merger or an agreement potential with them. But Nick Taylor ended up kind of being the story of the week more than anything. And, there was obviously some great other headlines during the year, but, that one's going to be talked about for a long, long time for sure.
So I guess then if that's the biggest story, then if we go further, like the next on that list would be the fact that 4 Canadians won on the PGA Tour this year as well.
Yeah. I mean, just to see that happen, that level of success, and even Brooke, during a press conference there just before the Grant Thornton, she made reference to it, and the fact that, having more players coming out on the LPGA tour, they're kind of hoping that they start to see that sort of results happen. And she was obviously partnering with Corey during that one, and referred to the fact that Corey and Adam and these guys had won, and four guys won on the tour this year. Nick in there, and Mac as well. That made for a momentous year,
Yeah.
and it really starts to show the strength and the quality of the program. And this is dating back years. People have to understand a lot of this stuff just doesn't happen overnight. I
No.
mean, I go back to watching, Mackenzie win the Canadian Amateur in 2011, 2012. That's a dozen years ago, but it takes that time for that maturity and to get that many starts and for things to happen. And it's rare that you're going to get that circumstance. But I think the other cool part is not only was it four Canadian winners on tour, it was, Adam won for the first time, but it was, it was multiple wins for the other
Hmm.
guys. It's not their first wins. So, that's showing, it's establishing those guys in that top level in the tour and a consistent depth of them, which is really hard when we're dealing with a country of 40 million, and you're racking yourself up against 350 million south of the border,
Big time.
where there's, an opportunity to play for a much longer season. So I think it's a testament to a lot of things. Obviously, their ability, their skill levels, development done at club levels way longer, a long time ago. Their personal coaches, the Team Canada program, and no person can really take credit for it. I think that's the thing. The only person that can really take credit for it is the player themselves. And they will all admit that obviously they've had a lot of support going into that. So I sort of bristle a little bit sometimes when I see organizations sort of almost feel like they take credit for it. This guy was on our tour, or this guy was on our team, or whatever. You know what? You're part of it, but you're not all of it. And in the
No.
end, it's the players that sign the scorecards and lift the trophies, and kudos to them and have an amazing year. And we're just going to expect a lot more next year because they are in that top echelon on the tour now. They're going to have that many more opportunities to fare well in big events. And we've got some big team events that are coming ahead. They're all of a sudden starting to think about things like the Olympics in a couple years from now. They're already talking about Paris, and yeah, so it's a super super positive sign for Canadian men's professional golf at this point.
Cool. Let me see, Scotty Mac. Let me see. Well, given the time of the year that it is right now, and that in let's see, one, two, three, I guess three short months we'll call them. That the second uh live Ottawa Gatineau Golf Expo will be taking place.
Yep. Yeah.
This past March marked the first time that the live Ottawa Gatineau Golf Expo occurred since the COVID
Mm-hmm.
shutdowns that kept us doing virtual golf shows
Yeah.
for a couple of years. And that was different. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say for us that that the return of the live show was as momentous as it was for a lot of the exhibitors who had an opportunity to kind of put their selves in front of their customers. We're a little
Mm-hmm.
different in that respect, so we're gonna feel a little different. Not doing the print version of the magazine, which again, was a first for us doing a live show without a print magazine.
Yeah.
Right. And that's usually one of the things that's really, big for us when it comes to the live Ottawa Gatineau Golf Expo is being there, passing out the magazines to people
Mm-hmm.
coming through the door. And we didn't have that, and we hadn't had that for a couple of years, and now we still don't have that. We've kind of moved on from that, pivoted,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
whatever
that
you want to
said,
put on it.
yeah, but that said, it was interesting because we had people coming up and chatting to us, and we were a sponsor of the show. We had a lot of people that were coming up to us and talking to us about the website. They were talking about the podcast. They were talking to us about, the newsletter. They were, it was social media. It was people that we interact with on social media and stuff. So, it's just it's just different more than
Hmm.
anything. But in some senses, I think it's just a, you know, I guess it's a snapshot of 2023 and the
Yeah.
future of how we communicate. Because really, I mean, think about this. This is the end of our 28th season for Flagstick. And if you think of the evolution of that from May 1996 to now,
Hmm.
there's a lot of changes that not only happen within us, but just,
The industry
industry,
around us.
technology, just everything else of how things are done and communicated, and also how people receive communication more than
Hmm.
anything. So, expos and
I still feel like there's and we've talked about this a number of times. I still feel like there is a space for
Mhm.
us to produce a
A
print
print
version of the
something.
magazine again. I would love that. I would love to be able to do that, but unfortunately, I'm not sure how that would look just yet. We've talked about it, and I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
not going to happen, but it's a little bit more of an expensive ordeal to get into
Mhm.
nowadays, and and even your advertisers have sort of moved on from the traditional print marketing to the digital
Right.
um,
Yeah.
immediacy of the of digital media. So, going backwards is not exact. We may be okay with that, but maybe, maybe the advertisers are not really okay with it. So something to consider.
Yeah.
Um, Let's see, Scott. This is a big long list here.
It is.
We
What
know
should we get?
Stephen Ames won 4 times on the
Yeah.
Champions Tour. By the way, let's
That.
just say that. Love that guy's golf swing. I've
Yeah.
always been a fan of Stephen Ames' golf game. Was not a big fan of Stephen Ames calling out Tiger Woods back at the Accenture match play. I think it was Accenture match play back then,
Yeah. 9 and 8.
and then getting absolutely waxed.
Yeah.
But that'll be in his career highlights for the rest of his life. But so will winning 4 times on the Champions Tour. So that's
Yeah.
pretty
Well,
extraordinary too.
yeah, and it was up there for kind of story of the year for the GJAC stuff. And like I was saying, Nick Taylor's win obviously overshadowed a lot of things.
Of
And one of those
course.
things was the play of Ames. He was incredible. We're fortunate we have a fair bit of interaction with him over social media. He knows that we're supportive and that we follow the results. And a lot of people didn't. Like I was surprised how many journalists and golfers that I spoke with that had no realization that he had, they knew he had played well this year on the tour, but
Hmm.
they hadn't realized he'd won 4 times. And that's an incredible accomplishment for anyone. I mean, four wins on the highest level of your professional golf is generally a career for a lot of people, let alone a season.
Very true. Okay, so before we get up against the break here, let's bang off a few more of these just so
Sure.
that we're sort of mentioning them so they don't get left out.
Yeah.
Elena Sharp won on the Epson Tour,
Yep.
which was awesome. We had 7 key Quebec titles, Quebec
Mm,
Golf Association titles, which encompasses the Ottawa area as well for the
yep.
most part, that went to Ottawa area golfers in 2023.
Yeah.
Seven
I know.
of the significant Quebec titles went to Ottawa area golfers.
Yeah,
That's
including Anne Sophie Burgot, who actually won 3 herself at the big
yeah,
same event.
the Quebec Junior, the
Yeah,
Juvenile, and the Quebec Amateur.
yes, which is just crazy when you think about that. So yeah, that's again another testament to the strength of junior golf in the region, that level of play for those Ottawa golfers competing in
Yeah.
Quebec for those titles. And I do not, even if we look back through a lot of things, I do not think there's that's ever been done as far as that many at the provincial level in Quebec.
Yeah, big time. So, Kevin and Lisa. So they mentioned this as well. Kevin and
Yep.
Lisa Haim, Alan McGee, Susan Pearl, Brad Fritsch, all were inducted into the OVGA Hall of Fame this year.
Yep.
All very deserving individuals, all very well-known golf names throughout the region, and at a high honor for those people to have been inducted this past year.
Yep.
Um,
I think
uh,
Ashton McCullough definitely warrants. He was declared the amateur of the year
yeah,
for GJAC. He won the Canadian Men's Amateur, which is only the second time that the Canadian Men's Amateur, well, third time the Canadian Men's Amateur champion has been won by somebody from the Eastern Ontario region, and that's from Kingston. That's only the
Yeah.
second time. It was Thomas Harley before that. Obviously, Greg Olson from Ottawa won in 1980. So that's a rare circumstance. We've been very blessed on the women's side. Obviously with Brooke and Augusta James and so forth, winning on that women's amateur side of it. Going back years, we can, talk about Alexis Sterling Fraser or whatever, but yeah, a big win by Ashton to win that men's amateur.
Now, the on the return of PGA of Canada, um,
Mm-hmm.
PGA Canada to the National Capital Region
Yep.
by way of the Commissionaires Ottawa Open. Stuart McDonald won the inaugural Commissionaires Ottawa Open, played at Eagle Creek, and that's exciting. It was exciting to have PGA Tour Canada Golf return to the National
Yep.
Capital Region. Exciting for those people that went and watched to see that. Great for Stuart McDonald to win that, and looking forward, obviously, to the second
Yep. In
edition of
2024.
the Commissioners Ottawa Open in 2024.
Yep.
Good friend of ours, Chris Veldkamp, and his Play Junior Golf Tour celebrated its 10th season this past year successfully. Lots of new faces. Congratulations. We
Tons.
are
Great to see.
extremely happy to have been a part of as a partner, as a sponsor of the race to the Flagstick Cup this past year. On the heels of the 10th season celebrations, looking forward to being in that role and enhancing that role in 2024 once again with the Play Junior Golf Tour.
For sure.
Continue to help develop and progress our junior golfers from the initiation phase of junior
Mm-hmm.
golf to higher things like what Max Corcoran and Sophie
Yep.
and Chase Jerome and players like that are
Sure.
doing at the provincial level. So
Yeah, and then working there all the way to college. I mean, players like this week, Braden Laughlin and Ben Sheridan from Ottawa announced their commitments to their universities. Shane Stanley obviously did one
yeah,
recently as well. So, these are all these kids that started out on these tours. So it makes a big difference of having that competitive circuit to work with.
yeah, get it under your belt. The Flagstick Shootout returned to
Hmm.
Smugglers Glen Golf Club, was presented by Cobra Puma Golf and returned for 2023. Limited field event,
Yep.
but we were very excited to have that return. And Jared Coyle was the winner of the 11th annual Flagstick Open championship, presented by TaylorMade and Adidas, longtime partners of ours, TaylorMade and Adidas, sponsors of that event. And entering into the 12th season, already have the dates booked with Scott McEnroy at Equinel for 2024. And just so those who are wondering, because I have had emails, my target date for opening registration is going to be very early this year. It's hopefully
Yep.
in mid-January. So
Pay attention,
um,
people.
pay attention when we send out the notifications and register quick, because the last time we opened the registration for 2023, it was pretty much full in 72 hours.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so be prepared when I open it, because if you'll be on the waiting list for a while. Um, I think, is there anything else, Scott? I mean, I think we've kind of
Yeah,
banged off majority of this year in review list. There's
yeah, that
lots of,
that was a lot
good
of the key
things.
things. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things happening. There's things we look forward to. One other highlight I had this year was that Endless Summer event that was in Belleville at Trillium Wood.
Yeah,
Got to see everybody from Kyle Berkshire to Martin Borgmeyer hitting balls. I've heard from Jody Jenkins. They're already planning for next year as well. So hopefully,
excellent.
they have a great field there. It was a fun event, despite the fact that the bugs were out at nighttime under the lights. But seeing the top long drivers in the world being Eastern Ontario was pretty cool as well. So yeah, just some good stuff. And I mean, locally, some high level of play at the intersectionals. People can obviously look at our website to see all the results and stuff for that. Just another solid year of competitions, and people should be advised though all those things happen because of volunteers. And I know the
Mm-hmm.
OBGA right now is seeking volunteers, seeking some people to help fill out their board of directors. So if you have some interest and you are in the National Capital Region, definitely reach out to them. Your assistance will help golf go a long way.
All right. That is a wrap on the front nine. We got to take a quick break on this season-ending episode of the Flagstick podcast. But when we come back, we're going to get into a little bit of what's going to be happening in 2024. So you don't want to go anywhere. You are listening to the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. Stay right there. We will be right back. The Canadian Pro Shop Online has all the best gear for Canadian golfers, amazing prices on all the top brands in one place. The latest drivers, irons, putters, and more. The Canadian Pro Shop Online is the best gear to help you play your best golf. Shop online today at CanadianProShopOnline.com. And we are back to bring home this final episode of 2023 here with the Flagstick podcast. And we, I think we're going to just get right into our back nine topics because they're kind of exciting. And the back nine is presented again by Celtic Golf Center, located 20 minutes from Ottawa in Kemptville. Celtic Golf Center is indoor golf on another level, featuring 5 state-of-the-art TrackMan simulators, 2 new Unicore sims with GS Pro. Celtic Golf Center can offer you over 10,000 course options, including many major courses, some with island greens and beautiful azaleas in the background. Play rounds with friends, practice with full swing analysis, or play games. Visit CelticGolfCenter.ca to learn more or to book your tee times. All right, Scott.
Yeah.
Here we go. We have talked about the 2023 year in review, which is, year in review. We could have done a year in review for days.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But we wrapped up some pretty key factors from the 2023 season, some events, some happenings, some winnings. But now we got to kind of,
turn the page
and look ahead to what's going to be going on in 2024, because that's what we do. And there are some significant things happening in 2024 to take note of. One of the ones that I think comes to mind is the return of the President's Cup to Royal Montreal.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I'd say my first experience with professional golf, like real PGA Tour level professional golf. My first experience was probably with the President's Cup when it was the last at Royal Montreal.
Well, you were at the Canadian Open at Royal Montreal before that, though. Go back when. That was, that's what you're thinking of. That's what you're thinking of. I was like, President's
You're right.
Cup.
Yeah, that was
I was
my
like,
first
I
experience.
was there, but I think you were at the Canadian Open back in
All right, scratch
96, 97.
Scratch that. My first experience was at the Canadian Open.
10 years prior
to that. I was actually, what's funny, because we were taking pictures of I was taking pictures of Davis Love and VJ Singh
on film,
a black and white camera with film, coming back from that event, taking the film to the little camera place downtown in the Glebe to get developed, because there was only a few places that could develop black and white film at the time. Crazy. Imagine that. That's how long I've been doing this, everybody. That's how long I've been doing. Oh my God, this is a long time.
Yeah. Thankfully, that President's Cup at Royal Montreal was in color, and
digital.
I was there shooting digitally, although I did shoot some black and white for that one. But I can remember being the first person in the media room that week. But it's hard to think, that's going to be 17 years.
Think about this
for that separation.
The highlight for group pairing for that President's Cup was Mike Weir and Tiger Woods. 17 years later,
of course,
Mike Weir is the captain of the international team going back to Royal Montreal.
Yeah, well,
How fitting.
you knew that was going to happen. I
It's
mean,
awesome.
that was pretty much easy to predict that that was going to happen. But Ryan Hart, who's the executive director, who's a Canadian that's done a lot of work on the Players Championship and several other events. Started as a tournament director on PGA Tour Canada. He's been in Montreal working away on this for 3 years already,
Yeah.
and he's put a lot of effort into it. His team has put a lot of effort into it to make it something that is not only an event of an international scale, but obviously has a Canadian flavor as well. And it's going to be momentous. So that's going to be in September. There's going to be a lot of lead up to that. I think one
Big
of the
time,
most
yeah.
exciting parts is if we look back at what we were talking about happening in 2023, is the success of the top professionals in Canada.
Hmm.
So there's a huge potential for this team to be, you know, multiple Canadians on this President's Cup team. I mean, we're pretty much guaranteed we're going to have a couple, but it might be a lot more than that,
Wouldn't that be great?
which is just going to only add to the atmosphere there. And I will say it was pretty raucous as it was when it was there. I would say the crowds and the hype for that. Now, granted, it's only happening. There's only a certain number of matches on the golf course, so the people are a little bit more concentrated, but certainly at a different level than the Canadian Opens that were held there,
Hmm.
especially the most recent one that was held in Montreal. But I know, sponsor sales are through the roof. There's going to be that many more eyeballs because this event is way bigger than it was, 17 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know a lot of people have already secured tickets, and it is definitely going to be a topic of discussion all year long leading up to it. And I think that's great. It does give up that lead up time. It doesn't happen right at the first part of the year. So there is that lead up to it. But yeah, it should be a beauty, that's for sure.
Now, on the women's professional golf side of things, what's exciting about going into this season is the number of, and we touched on this a little bit, but the
Yeah.
number of Canadians that are on the LPGA tour um, has increased. So
Mhm.
the eyeballs that we're going to have, specifically for Canadian women, Canadian professional golfers, is going to be that much greater going into the 2024 season.
Yeah, and I think specifically, I mean, people are looking for Brooke to have a big year. She had a win this year, second at a major, but not her best year ever. Elena back on there for a little bit more time. Maddie back on there. Mon ami LeBlanc back from injury. But I think a lot of the people that I've been talking to is they're very interested to see how Savannah Grohl will do. Savannah just signed with the Flex Sports Group yesterday out of LA for representation. She earned her card at Q School and did it in dramatic fashion. We obviously recapped that here on the podcast and the fact that she was 41 under par for those 14 rounds of Q School. So it's going to be very interesting to see a new face out there. The other four, have had that experience of being out there on the LPGA Tour prior, but having a fifth out there just makes it that much better. And
Hmm.
also knowing as well that we've got a lot of great collegiate talent as well playing right now in the US, a lot of top amateurs, other players that are playing Epson Tour and so forth. So that means that when that CPKC Open comes around in the summer in Calgary this year at Earl Grey, there is definitely a chance for a lot more LPGA, sparks by Canadians happening there. So that'll be fun to see and see how that plays out. And pretty excited for the people of Calgary to get that. It's been quite some time since the tournament has been back there. And it's a great golf city. So yeah, should be a fun one. So
Now, Scott, one of the obviously the most exciting topics um, that we can get into, and it seems to always be the thing that most people want to talk about the most is equipment,
mhm.
and what happens with equipment year after year. Are the new equipments that coming out, are they just cosmetic baloney, or
Mm,
are they functional improvements? So
yeah,
as we look forward to 2024, knowing what we just went through in 2023,
yeah.
um, you know, what's that impact going to be like? Like what's the
What are we
new
going to
equipment
see?
for 2024? What are we going to see? Is something changing? Like, are the cycles of equipment changing?
Mm,
Is there a new emerging market that we can see in 2024, like a mid-price?
hmm.
What's
Yeah,
happening in the equipment world?
I think that's a great point that you make there. I mean, I can't get into too
Thank
much
you.
detail because there are a lot of things that I'm under embargo.
Damn embargoes.
Tested lots of the product for 2024. Have from golf clubs, golf balls, so forth. Have all sorts of golf balls here right now, doing some different testing and so forth. I mean, the one thing I will say, the prices are not getting any cheaper. They're not for the high end stuff. But I will say there's definitely, as you mentioned, there's an emerging mid-price market. We're definitely seeing some manufacturers pay attention to the fact that not all the golfers are going to spend, $800 on a driver, that may hang on to that a little bit longer, and that there is a need for some product at some other level, whether that's direct to consumer stuff. We saw that this year in like Adams Golf. We're seeing that in like other manufacturers, like Cobra, for an example, had their Air X irons came out this year, and they were kind of in the $800 range, whereas a lot of the premium irons are, now, in the $1,600 plus range.
Yeah.
But I think people are hanging on to them a little bit more. Maybe they're spending a little bit more time getting properly fitted for them. So they realize that they don't necessarily have to change. As always, I would say, is some of the new equipment better? Yeah, but it's incremental. It's very incremental. I mean, what you're going to see from a change from one driver to the next, in a particular brand, it's very small margin that you might not see from product to product. It might be more noticeable over, 4 or 5 product cycles. So I think what we're going to see is the buying cycles will start to slow down a little bit. The people that are early adopters will always be early adopters. They're going
Hmm.
to go out and they want to buy the latest and the greatest and whatever. And, they're more than welcome to do that. The expectation shouldn't be that their performance is going to kind of go through the roof. But I think we're going to see people starting to hang on to it a little bit more as the economy a little bit slower, pricing goes a little bit higher and stuff like that. So, which is not a bad thing, again, as that gap has been created by the premium stuff going to the top, that creates a little space or lots of space underneath for something at a mid-price level. It's still decent quality and still going to get people out to the golf course.
I think that's an important part of where the equipment portion of the industry needs to go. I think that everybody wants a TaylorMade or a Ping or a Callaway or
Mm-hmm.
a Titleist iron or driver in their bag. And
Sure.
I don't think that the manufacturing industry has to sacrifice very much on the quality of their product to be able to put a club in somebody's bag or a set of irons or a wedge or a putter in somebody's bag that is a different price point but still carries their brand.
Mm-hmm. For
Now, I
sure.
don't expect that out of a Scotty Cameron putter. I don't expect that out of a Vokey wedge.
No.
Those are sort of like a premium elite level.
Yeah, they're a
Um,
Tiffany, a Christian Dior, they're a
yeah,
luxury brand.
exactly.
They're going to play in that certain realm, and that's where they're going to stay,
But as
right?
much as some people want to buy the Rolex watch, the Timex watch can be just as stylish and just as functional. It just
Functional.
doesn't
Yeah,
carry, but the Timex watch can have the name Rolex on it. I guess
sure.
that's my point. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's like I think there's a market for that. I don't know. I'm not in the equipment manufacturing industry, so I'm not going to profess to know what they know or be privy to the information that they have. I just feel like if I walk into a retail outlet or a pro shop and I
yeah.
see I see a set of irons on the wall that has a high end brand name on it, and
Mm-hmm.
they're $1,600. And I see another set of irons on the wall that has the same brand name, and they're $800. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm the kind of guy that plays golf twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm more inclined to want to buy that $800 brand name iron than
Yeah,
I am wanting to buy the $600 iron that is a private deck of something that
right.
is,
Unknown,
whatever. I don't know what you
unknown.
are, but
Yeah,
you're $600, not 16.
yeah. And I don't
So
think that, and I don't think they're sacrificing their sales in that aspect
I
of
don't
it,
think so
because
either.
I don't fully expect that as aspirational as that golfer is, I don't expect that golfer that's 2 times a month to go and invest that 1,600 as it is. And we see private deck stuff from some of the manufacturers. They basically take some technology that they've had from a previous year
Mm-hmm.
and maybe relabeled, repackaged or whatever, and then sold at a lower price point for particular retailers or so forth. We could see that emerge a little bit more, especially if they want to contain the whole market and not just be at a certain level.
Yeah,
Yes, you know what? It's good as far as if they can get the prices up per unit or whatever, but you're also better to have more clubs in more people's hands and they have some brand loyalty, so that if they are buying that $800 set, maybe when they're ready, they have a brand loyalty and they're ready to buy the $1,600 set. They'll stay with that brand because they've had a positive experience with
that's
the
how I look at it anyway.
yeah,
I
for
know
sure.
there's been over the years there's been equipment like that where you've
Yeah.
had a high end iron,
Mm-hmm.
a different model, and
Yeah.
then a slightly lower end
Mm-hmm.
iron. I think if I remember correctly, way back when
The
they
old
had the Titleist
DCI,
DCIs and the
DCI,
DTRs.
DTRs. Yeah,
And
that's a
the
great
DTR
example.
was distance through research, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't distance
yeah,
through research? Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. And they're
So,
just a little less options from a fitting perspective, maybe
mhm.
for the lower price one. But I think that's available again. And you know what? There's a lot of great innovations and stuff that are out there, but and all due respect to everybody in the equipment world, but the golfer makes the biggest difference. You know,
Yeah,
but
100%. I
as
agree
we
with that.
always say, people don't buy golf equipment, they buy hope, right? So
Yeah,
um
exactly.
that's what it is. So it'll continue to evolve. I will say there's some really cool stuff coming. That's the one way to say it. I had
Zip,
somebody
zip, zip.
and I posted it yesterday because somebody asked me, they're like, um it was somebody from a company and they asked me what the first impression of one of their new golf balls was, and I said it's the first time I've ever, just my first thought about a golf ball was it's quiet.
Really?
Like it's a weird thing that jumped in my brain. I have no idea or
That's not
whatever. So
normal.
no, but it was just it's just because it's a very soft golf ball and so forth, and has a different feel to it and so forth. And again, you know, we're not talking products here that are going to take your handicap from 30 down to 10 instantly. This is not the case.
What?
But I will say, there's definitely some noticeable improvements within the products that you see coming out, not only from a performance standpoint, but maybe from an aesthetic standpoint. The focus on some of the messaging from the companies will be a little bit different in 2024. But yeah, a lot of stuff has obviously come out on the USDA conforming list. But again, I can't get into technical details for a lot of this stuff without getting myself in trouble. But stay tuned. January will be very busy about details. I know. Yeah. So fun stuff.
I don't need any lawsuits.
No, no.
um, all right. Let's talk about the golf business.
Hmm.
And since COVID,
Yo.
as much as I hate to bring COVID up all the time, but since COVID,
Mm-hmm.
we had a boom in the industry as far as
Sure.
the number of golfers, the number of members at clubs, the amount of rounds
Yep.
played, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Now,
Canada was up 23-24%. So
over the that sort of 2 year stretch, there was a lot of growth.
Mhm.
And then as we came out of COVID, we started to see a little bit of a
Normalization, we'll call it.
normalization. We're not going to call it a decline because a
No,
decline would
it's not
indicate a
going
negative. We don't
backwards.
want to
Yeah.
talk about negatives. We want to talk about
No,
positives. So
no,
normalization, which was to be expected.
sure.
Now we're 2 years. We'll be 2 years now removed from COVID.
Well, sort of.
Come, yeah, well,
As my wife had it last
yeah,
week.
and my wife
Your
and my
wife. Yeah.
mom and
Yeah,
like
exactly.
and
So
three
we're
kids
not
in my
we're
son's
not we're
class
not
and
removed, but we're removed from the restrictions.
right for now.
Yes.
Didn't cut my tongue out for saying that, but um, so do we see more or do we expect more normalization in 2024? Do we expect T sheets to open up a little bit more still? Do we expect memberships to waiting lists to disappear and memberships to be start to be available
Yeah.
at some clubs in 2024? Or do we see, have we reached that normalization point that we were expecting? Are we there now, or are we
Yeah.
going to normalize even more?
I would say the diehard golfer, the one that's sort of really committed to the game. There's a lot more of those that are out there right now, the ones that are going to buy memberships. So, in speaking to a number of managers and head pros and so forth in the last little while, waiting lists are still strong. There's still demand as far as the memberships. I think where things have started to kind of lighten up a little bit is more the person that came to the golf that didn't have quite the commitment to it. Those are the ones that really filled out the tee sheets, especially at the public courses. So that's
Right.
where we see a little bit of softening there, which changes obviously in the interest in the business. I will say one thing that has happened as a result of it is that there's an economic surge for some aspects of the game, be it, and we've discussed it here, be it things like indoor golf places and so forth, which has obviously got people, looking at businesses again within the golf industry. Unfortunately, many of those are triggered based on a quick cycle and surge that has come in. Maybe they're not as well thought out as maybe they could be. There's some people coming in the industry and establishing businesses in the industry, and not just golf courses or indoor golf centers, but golf related apparel brands, all sorts of different things, because the entry barrier is less to them than there used to be, or, for some of those markets. That I think might slow down a little bit as those people realize that golf is just not a big pot of gold that's, they're just going to throw money in and money's going to come back at them. So we may see some, changes in there. But that said, I think the fact that we're seeing that happen means we're just going to see an ever changing landscape where there are some different ideas out there, and some of them will stick, and some of those facilities will stick. So it just changes the shape or the look of golf sort of long term. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say the courses themselves, as long as they're continuing to innovate, they'll probably do quite well, but they're going to have to be very wary of how they're going to deal with any of the T sheet slowdowns, any of the membership slowdowns, any hesitations by members or so forth to increase pricing. Any So they're going to have to be very conscious about that, and really pay attention to the economic factors that are there, and react and adapt, as quickly as possible, and realize that, not everything's just going to stay, on the rise.
Okay, so here's my take on two points here.
Sure.
My first point I'll talk about is indoor golf.
Mm-hmm.
What I see happening right now with indoor golf facilities that does scare me a little bit is there are those that are opening up in markets that truly can and will support what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're opening up at a size and in an area that is financially conducive to what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
There are those that are opening up in heavily saturated indoor golf markets.
Burlington
Um,
Oakville is a big one right now. That's
yeah,
crazy how many are
and
there.
they're opening up larger than life
Mm-hmm.
in areas where sustainability of the kind of cost to operate on a month-to-month basis, they're opening up in areas like that
Prime
as opposed
retail.
to
Yeah.
opening up in more industrial or commercial
Mm-hmm.
locations,
Yeah.
and understanding that if it's indoor golf, now it depends on how much. If you're opening up a facility that has indoor golf and a restaurant and a retail
Mm-hmm.
space and this
Right.
and this
Yeah.
and this,
Yeah.
you have to be in a more prime location where your
For
competition
sure.
is. You can't open up something like that in an industrial park.
Yeah.
But if you're opening up something small that has 5 or 6 simulators, maybe with a bar and air frying chicken wings and stuff like that, you don't need to be in prime retail to make
No.
that work. Much like a golf course doesn't need to be on a main street in order to survive.
Especially for a
You're
seasonal business.
Yeah, you become more of a destination facility. So what I'm seeing is I'm seeing just a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm fearful that the ones that are spending a lot of money trying to be something big are the ones that
Mm-hmm.
are going to get hurt the most because
Yeah.
there's so much availability out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So that's my one take on the indoor golf thing. On the golf industry itself, on golf courses, the one thing that I will say, and I think I've said it on this podcast before, but because of the fact that I'm hearing from our audience, via email or by people who text me or DM me or whatever the case may be. The one thing that I will say, just a blanket across the board to golf course operators, particularly around our own region, because they're the ones I hear the most about,
Sure.
is I want you to be cautious about how much you take away um, from your customers, how much you shave off of the playing experience, the conditioning, all of the things outside of just providing a place for them to play golf. Because what I'm hearing a lot of more chatter is that a lot of facilities, whether it be through the fact that staffing is an issue, and I get that,
True.
but
Yeah.
if you are offering a product that is not up to the level that you are charging for that product, this is going to backfire on you, and it's going to
Yeah.
backfire in a hurry, and it's going to backfire hard.
Yep.
Now, I may only be hearing a small sample size of
Hmm.
of what the chatter is out there, but I guarantee you, where there's smoke, there's fire. And
Yep.
if I'm hearing, as Scott and I are what we do, we're voices of golf in this region, and beyond, but particularly in East Ontario and in the Gatineau region, we hear everything. So
Oh
when
yeah.
we hear a bit of something, there's
Yep.
a lot more of it going on than just what we hear.
Hmm.
So you have to be careful, because
Yep.
if you start down degrading your what you're offering by,
Hmm.
not cutting your greens regularly, not maintaining your golf course,
Hmm.
putting crappy food in the restaurant to save money or to profit more. I get
Hmm.
it. These things have to happen sometimes, but you can't then charge more
Hmm.
for your product just because more people want your product.
Yeah.
That's going to backfire on you in a hurry. I
Yeah.
guarantee it.
I think the biggest element in there, and that goes to kind of what we hear from feedback, the consumers only know what they see, right? They don't know about
Hmm.
your expenses. They don't, and believe me, we totally understand the business aspect of it, and,
Of
the
course we do.
difficulties and the challenges and so forth. But you always have to think of what the consumer's perception is. And if you're not providing what they perceive to be a greater value, they don't feel like the price adjustment should be just a case for the price adjustment. Yes, you know what? Your labor costs may be higher, your taxes may be higher, your electricity may be higher, and so forth. But they don't necessarily want to hear that. They want to hear, what am I getting extra for your services on the other end? I mean, I'll use my own example. Let's say from a teaching and coaching standpoint,
Hmm.
and I see a lot of other coaches and teachers or whatever. What other elements are you adding within your service that you're doing that can make it better? I mean, we see it from a media standpoint. We're like, okay, we're in this market, we're going to communicate more with these people, we're going to expand this effort and try to provide more value for our marketing partners, right?
Hmm.
And again, the same for a coach or a teacher. They have to provide more services, upgrade the technology they're using, do the things. If the consumers see that, same at the golf courses, if they see things are happening at a golf course, they see activations. I know one course, for an example, that, they're now redoing all their bunkers and that's an easier sell when they go
Hmm.
back and say, our green fee went up a few dollars because we're doing extra work here to make this golf course better and so forth. It's not going up because our electricity bill is higher, right? They don't care. In the end, you're solving a problem for your customer, and that problem, they have a choice.
Hmm.
So you have to make it about them and not about you.
Your customer has to see the value.
Yeah.
They have to see the value. So that's all I'm saying about it. Like, I'm not piling on anybody in
No,
particular.
no,
I
no,
never
for
do
sure.
that. But
Yeah, this is
I
a
know there's
general
a lot of
statement.
GMs and
Yeah.
course owners that listen to this podcast,
Yeah.
and those people fall in this list, this area that I'm discussing.
Yeah.
So those people just need to pay close attention to what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
it will
And
backfire.
yeah, and I think the biggest thing is listening to that customer and having proper communication, making sure that you're surveying, you're hearing those people as much as possible and not assuming. I mean, I think it's really easy for anybody, that's doing their own thing in their business, they're involved in their business. They just sort of assume the consumer,
Yeah,
this is what they want, or no, but you got to ask them that. You got
yeah,
to ask them that, and you got to hear that from the clientele rather than the clientele coming to us to bitch about stuff.
exactly. Okay. the last thing that we'll talk about on looking forward before we have to get out for 2023 is just some Flagstick related things. Number one, we already touched on
Yeah.
Flagstick shootout, the Flagstick Open at Equinel is a go. I believe May 18th, 19th weekend.
So
Everything is as it was. The field will be at 120 players capped. Registration will open in January. That much I can tell you. So those returning players will
they'll get notification
watch your
first.
email.
Yep.
You'll get your notifications first, and then we'll open it up to everybody else, and it will sell out fast. I guarantee it.
Yep.
Second, Flagstick Shootout will also be returning for its returning again for a second year in a row. Back to Smuggler's Glen again. Again, it's a limited player field sponsored by Cobra Puma Golf. We're hoping to completely fill that one up pretty quickly as well now that we're into second year. And the third thing that we're going to just kind of,
Tease.
punch you in the gut a little bit here is we have been in contact. Had a big meeting with Sam McPhail from Golf PEI, and the plan is underway to have a Flagstick trip to PEI.
Got it.
At this point, I think we're targeting next late August.
Yeah. So right
was
after
that-
what they would call Old Home Week down
Right.
there. So about the third week of August is
So
what
we're
looking
still
at.
ironing out details on everything. We're still on we've got a potential sponsor in place to help out with some very cool swag that everybody will get for coming. We do know that it's going to be limited to about 16 to 20 people.
Yeah, for the first shot at it.
We do know that it's going to include I think 3 rounds of golf. We do know that it's going to include some experiences. And that's all we're going to tell you for now, because very early, but we're hoping again to open up registration or whatever you want to call for that trip.
Yeah.
In early 2024 as well, because we don't have a lot of. It's not like we are taking 100 people with us. I can't handle that many of you.
No, and you know what? Well, I'll say this just as a generalization. We will tell people it will be an experience that, unlike anyone else, could probably offer to go to Prince Edward Island.
Guarantee, yeah, no
Guaranteed.
question.
Yeah.
That
And I can guarantee that from my family roots there and experience there. And Jeff knows, he's been there with me.
Yeah.
That helps as far as doing that aspect of it. But on top of that, we'll have inclusions in this trip that you won't get from just your general trip that you would go there.
This is a flagstick trip. So Scott and I are planning on being there with you. Which adds significant value to the trip. But there'll be little things, little tiny things here and there, and some big things, and some inclusions that you're just, like Scott said, you are not going to get these kinds of things just by signing up for a trip somewhere with anybody else but us. So
we want to make it a great experience.
Get that in your memory bank. You'll love it. We'll have more details in 2024 for you.
You got it.
Well, I think that's it, my friend. I think we've put a wrap, literally, and a bow on the 2023 podcast season for us. I say that, yes, we're not releasing a podcast next week. We are taking some much needed, much deserved time, and we'll come back at you in 2024 with our first episode of the Flagstick podcast in the new year.
Yes, our families would like to see us.
Yes, they would. So with that, I would like to say happy holidays to everybody. Happy New Year. All the best to you and your families. And I'm sure Scott would like to extend those well wishes as well. And we thank you very much for being a part of the Flagstick podcast in 2023. We love doing this. It's what we get up every Thursday morning for.
Some of us.
Don't go there. And bringing great golf information to you all year round is something we just love to do. It's just what we do. So thank you, all our listeners and our viewers. we do look forward to bringing things back to you in 2024. We also obviously want to thank our sponsors this week, Metcalfe Golf Club, Celtic Golf Center, and a presenting sponsor, of course, this week, Canadian Pro Shop Online, who has the great golf gift for everyone, introducing the Clubhouse Golf Box. Amazing gift to golfer in your life, loaded with amazing products from top brands. Simply choose the Essential of the Premium Box, choose your ship date, and they will fill it with amazing products and ship it right to your door or to your lucky recipient. It is simply gift giving made easy. Get yours or browse for other great golf gift ideas at the Canadian Pro Shop Online. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed the last season, this episode, and all the episodes throughout 2023, or you're enjoying what you're hearing and watching. Be sure to follow us across all social media networks continually on Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, and subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and obviously check us out on YouTube. Like us and click the notification bell. Make sure you never miss a single episode. Please get over to flagstick.com for more amazing golf content delivered to you every single day, and to register for the free Flagstick Digest newsletter, which will bring that great news to your inbox 3 days a week. Simple as that. Nothing free is ever good, but I guarantee this free stuff is great. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Until next week, happy holidays. I am Jeff Botter.
Until next year, Scott McLeod.
Remember, always go for the stick.